Hello and welcome to this Pawsey training module, where we will provide an overview of the file systems available on Pawsey supercomputers. File systems provide storage areas for the various files that are part of your supercomputing workflow. Depending on its purpose, the features of a file system may vary. The capacity of a file system is how much data can be stored. The capacity can be limited not only by the combined size of the files in bytes, but also the total number of files. The duration is how long the files should persist on a file system. Some file systems are intended for short-term use, while actively used by running jobs, while others are intended for mid-term storage for files that need to be reused frequently over the lifetime of a project. Files that are no longer actively used should be removed from the supercomputing file system and placed in other services intended for longer-term storage, such as the Pawsey data store or institutional storage facilities. The Scratch file system is Pawsey's highest performance file system, intended for large datasets that are actively being used by jobs running on the supercomputers. It has a 3 petabyte capacity, or approximately 2 billion files. The Scratch file system is shared by all users and has no quota. The path to your Scratch directory for a project is /scratch/projectname/username. For accounts with a single project, the $myscratch environment variable can be used for convenience. As there is no quota, Scratch has a 30-day purge policy to ensure the file system remains available for use. This means that the system may remove files that have not been accessed for 30 days. Accessing files for no other purpose than to avoid the purge policy may result in account suspension. Instead, the files should be moved to a more appropriate storage. Searching and purging files also puts unnecessary load on the file system. So please delete your files so the Scratch file system has more available capacity and better performance for everyone. Here I am logged into the Zeus supercomputer. By default, I start in my home directory, as we can see if I use the present working directory program pwd. To get to the Scratch directory, you can use the change directory program cd and the myscratch environment variable. This matches the project in the Pawsey project environment variable, which I can display using echo. The group file system is another high-performance file system. It is intended for shared project files, such as job scripts, reference datasets and programs. It is not as fast as Scratch, and so files for larger parallel jobs should be staged to Scratch before and after the job executes. The path to your group directory for a project is /group/projectname/username. For accounts with a single project, the $mygroup environment variable can be used for convenience. The quota is for files that belong to your project group, and problems can occur if the files in /group belong to your user group instead of your project group. By default, files created in group should automatically be in your project group, but occasionally options set on the data transfer programs such as rsync may override this behavior. We have written a script to fix the permissions if this occurs called fix.group.permissions.sh, which is used followed by the project name to fix the files. So here I can move into my project's group directory using cd and the mygroup environment variable. The current path is again shown with the present working directory command pwd. You can see my project's group quota using lfs quota -h -g, your project name, and /group. In my example, this group has used 14 terabytes of the 15 terabytes available quota. Note that while the 1 terabyte quota is the default, the quota can be increased if there's a legitimate need. The home file system is where you start by default when you log in. It should be used for small configuration files for programs that expect those files in your home directory. It has a relatively small 10 gigabyte quota and uses the network file system NFS, which is much slower than group or Scratch. Where possible, the group should be used rather than the home directory. The path to your home directory is /home/username. This path is available in the home environment variable for convenience. Change into your home directory with the change directory cd and the tilde symbol. Using present working directory pwd, we can see where the home directory is. The quota for your home directory can be displayed with quota -s-f/home. Here we can see I've used 2.8 gigabytes of my 10 gigabyte quota. To reduce unnecessary file transfer, these file systems are available from all of the Pawsey supercomputing systems. For the operation of the ASCAP and NWA radio telescopes, there is also a /astro file system similar to Group and Scratch. We can use the disk-free utility, df, to view the free space on these file systems as a whole. Here, Scratch is currently 82% populated, and likewise there's Group, Astro, and Home. And there's also a Pawsey file system which contains much of the system-wide software provided by Pawsey and various temporary file systems. For access permissions, by default your home directory is only accessible by you. The group and scratch directories by default are accessible by all of the members of the same project. Note that Pawsey staff may access your home, group and scratch directories as needed to ensure that the supercomputer remains in an operational state for all users, and to assist with help requests as detailed in the conditions of use. Using the ID command, we can also determine the projects that we belong to, which can be helpful for finding the relevant scratch and group directories if you belong to multiple projects. You can see here I belong to a number of groups that I've been helping with their workflows. If we use the list command ls with the -l flag, it will display the permissions and ownerships of files. You can see in my home directory, my user account is the owner and group associated with the files. If I move to my group directory and run the same command, you can see that while I own the files, they're associated with my project group. Thank you for watching this module covering supercomputing file systems at Pawsey. For more information, refer to our documentation or contact our support team at support.pawsey.org.au.